Okay, so first and foremost, allow me on behalf of CDW and Lenovo to wish you a healthy and safe quarantine. We totally understand that this pandemic has changed everything in the world, so we wanted to wish you all the best in this lockdown and working from home. And we wanted to convey our appreciation to each and every one of you for taking time and attending this webinar. So welcome to this CDW Technology webinar set of series. Today we'll shed the light on Lenovo IoT solutions for intelligent transformation powered by Intel. Throughout this session, please feel free to type your questions and or comments in the chat box, and we'll be more than happy to address those questions in the Q&A section. So allow me to introduce you to your hosts for today, starting with the one and only Frank Smollinger, our Lenovo IoT and OEM channel manager. Frank has been in the industry for the longest. He's a legacy technology expert, machine-to-machine, and IoT expert. And yours truly, my name is Moshbi, the CDW Solutions Business Development Manager, and I'm dedicated to the Lenovo line of business here at CDW. Together, we'll take you through the following agenda. The agenda will cover an intro to what IoT at CDW means, and what makes IoT a vital technology trend, the components of IoT and the security challenges, and we'll touch base on the Lenovo ThinkShield security solution in addition to our value prop and the ecosystem that is out there in the market. And then we'll pass it on to Frank to talk about Lenovo, the Lenovo IoT solutions, considerations and challenges. And then we'll wrap it up with a few use case examples, and we'll open it up for Q&A. So before we jump into the main course, I just wanted to share with you a quick update on CDW. For those who don't know what we do, we are the largest national service providers in the industry, founded in 1984. We're the 178th brand on the Fortune 500 list of companies with nearly $18 billion of sales across our US headquarters, Canada, and the UK. We are a global company with multiple offices across the world. Here in Canada, we have multiple offices with our headquarters in Etobicoke and a downtown office, in addition to various other offices across the main provinces. With over 35 years of experience and over 1,200 partners, we are ranked #1 with most of those partners, and we have dedicated resources across the board. We are considered the home of over 2,000 technical engineers and solution experts across the board, and we offer the most comprehensive core-to-cloud solution in the world. Now, it's no secret that the Internet of Things is exploding and connecting things that were never connected, from wearables to your home devices to industrial sensors and smart devices of all kinds. All are now collecting and sharing data. So the merge of both the digital and the physical worlds are now transforming the way we live, work, and learn, connecting people, things, and businesses, and translating that within autonomous smart devices that can predict, sense, and communicate back to the designated department so they can take actions accordingly. And then taking that data and turning it into valuable information for your business and enabling you to make faster and smarter decisions is exactly what we're in it with CDW. So today, 85% of all devices are still unconnected, but that isn't going to last long. The industry experts like Gartner and IDC predicts that by 2025, there'll be over 75 billion connected IoT endpoints globally, producing over 44 zettabytes of data. Other analysts in the market think that that's a very conservative figure, and we could see a surge up to 150 billion or 150 billion connected endpoints and sensors by then. Those endpoints will be used in hundreds of different products and solutions, from simple smart meters to entire buildings and cities. Now, when you look at the typical IoT solution, there are usually basic components that put together this entire IoT solution together. And those three major parts are considered in the following manner. The IoT platform that connects the enterprise systems and things, the consortia of standardization, and I think we've received a question earlier this week around those standardizations and the ecosystem partners. So there are, of course, a list of partners that drive the standards and protocols and making all connected devices work together and to be able to run on a single platform. And then last but not least, the Lenovo world-class products and technologies that are specifically designed for IoT and coupled with our CDW managed and professional services. Like any other technology in the world, IoT is creating plenty of new challenges, especially since we're in the early days that are that we're adopting this technology. And those challenges revolve around the scale, the security, and the manageability of this technology. So imagine a damaged security breach to a hacked pump in a nuclear power plant could create. Or imagine a hacked clinical data system in a healthcare provider. The reality is more endpoints and more connected machines make data breaches much more visible. So IoT security needs to be managed and maintained for the entire life cycle of the endpoint. IoT security, again, is a journey, as you know, not a destination, and the lack of dominant standards and the fact that majority of OEMs in the market are approaching it from a get it to the market type of attitude has led to those type of security breaches. Therefore, IoT security needs to be considered and built into the deployment from the beginning, not bolted on at the end. And that's why we came up with Lenovo ThinkShield, which is a customized solution that secures your most critical data and business technologies. It's a comprehensive end-to-end protection technology. From the moment that we envision a new platform, we incorporate that security by design approach into the supply chain. And we're able to deliver that vision onto the platform that we're designing with ThinkShield, of course. It's again will integrate itself into the industry-leading devices that we offer. And with this rapid digital transformation of the workplace, ThinkShield will keep you protected from evolving threats and will enable you to build capabilities around those risks and will enable you to respond in a timely fashion and be preventative in that perspective. So our holistic approach to security starts with the platform security enablement piece, which is the built-in ThinkShield security solution that comes standard on our industry-leading devices, especially when we're talking about this work from home, new era. The security becomes very crucial to your business, and that's why we offer enhanced device protection. And to further build your security resilience, we offer solutions for device threat and data protection. And those are partnered with our industry-leading endpoint protection technology. We have a list of added value partners that are part of our ecosystem. And we integrate those type of solutions into deploying and monitoring and reporting those assets through the security management platform. In a nutshell, ThinkShield is a security solution that is different in its approach because in the end of the day, we put you, our customer, in the core of this technology pitch, and we managed to customize the security journey accordingly. In a nutshell, at CDW, we recognize those challenges and we counter-offer those type of competitive solutions out there with industry-leading hardware, software, and systems that will enable you to manage your business expectations accordingly. With our CDW and Lenovo solutions powered by Intel, we can offer a customer like you with the maximum productivity and a comprehensive security and an integrated lifecycle management technology. To summarize my section, there are few things that I wanted to share with you. In today's world, the market is split into two major offerings, and specifically the IoT world. The enterprise market like your smart devices, laptops, workstations, desktops, etc. And then the machine-to-machine IoT market. And that's where you look at the legacy IoT edge servers, the industrial sensors, and so on and so forth. And a robust ecosystem is needed to scale. And that's why Lenovo and CDW partnered together into building IoT technologies that can collaborate with the cloud, with the software providers, with the analytics platforms to ensure that each and every solution complements the other. And together we can deliver this secure core to cloud solution. With our ecosystem, we are actively engaged with various verticals from healthcare to smart cities, transportation, retail, manufacturing, education, you name it. And we managed to successfully empower those customers with products and solutions that fit their business needs. And now let me pass the ball to our Lenovo IoT expert, Frank Smollinger. Frank?
Thank you very much, Mo. So hello everyone, thanks for joining the CDW Lenovo webcast series this afternoon. As Mo mentioned, my name is Frank Smollinger. I'm with Lenovo. I come from 14 years at IBM, 8 years at Lenovo, spent most of my time in the back end data center space with server storage and networking. Last couple of years heavily focused on our hyperconverged software defined and enterprise cloud business, and have recently gone over into our OEM and IoT division. Spent a lot of time in the back-end data center, wanted to get now into the front end, into the edge, as that's a very emerging space right now. And there's a lot of different cool and neat technologies and protocols on the front end, because most of the time, what we see on the front end, whether it's a robo or an edge or an IoT solution or a sensor or multiple sensors out either on a farmer's field in an smart agriculture scenario or in a smart disposal scenario, how sensors are bolted onto or inside a garbage dumpster or disposal bin. And it's interesting to me how that all translates or correlates to the back end data center and an ERP system like SAP potentially in some cases. It may or may not. But to be able to follow the technology and understand the technology from a sensor out in the field all the way to a back-end data center is very interesting concept to me. So a little bit about Lenovo. Some of you may know who Lenovo is. I often come across people or individuals who have never heard of Lenovo, sometimes pronounce it Lenova, but for those who don't know who Lenovo is, today we're 50 billion in sales worldwide, roughly around 57,000 people, and we operate in 180 countries, which gives us some good worldwide and global presence. We often compete with some customers, we often compete with some competitors that can't get into 180 countries, can't do business in 180 countries. They can only participate in, half of those regions, call it 80 some odd regions. So having that worldwide presence gives us a very strong advantage globally. Next slide, please, Mo. And if you take a look at some of what the industry analysts are saying in and around IoT, McKinsey predicts that IoT could be and will be an $11 trillion business or industry in the next 5 years. And if we take a look at Gartner, they're saying today there's 25 billion internet connected devices or things. I'm going to talk about two different business models today within Lenovo. One will be OEM. We're going to spend a small piece on that, and the bulk of this will obviously be IoT. Within Lenovo, IoT is a division or a department within our OEM business or organization. That's why I'm going to just spend a few minutes to talk about what OEM is. And what you'll probably see in your kind of compartmentalize in your mind here is what OEM is and what IoT is, but sometimes and often the two lines could get blurred, and sometimes I'm even asking myself, is this OEM or is this IoT? Heck, it's both, and it can be both. So what OEM means to Lenovo, or the definition of OEM to Lenovo, is where a customer of ours takes a piece of Lenovo technology. It could be a computer of any various form factor. It could be a screen, it could be a tablet, and integrates it into a larger solution of their own, where they own intellectual property. It could be software, it could be hardware, where we are the underlying brains or the engine powering that larger piece of machinery or running that application. And the glorified example I love to give is on the next slide here, with a GE Medical CAT scan machine. So next slide there, Mo. Actually, you can actually jump to the next one, and then we're going to toggle back to this. So if we take a look at GE Medical, GE Healthcare, we take a look at their latest and greatest CAT scan machine on the top left corner there. It's actually a Lenovo workstation that powers that machine. From a radiology perspective, once those images are taken, we power the underlying, it's an underlying Lenovo computer that powers radiologists to be able to see the most crisp, clearest, highest definition pictures. This is a number of examples where we play, like, for example, Google Stadia is another example where if a organization or a developer wants to develop for the Google Stadia platform, it's actually a Lenovo workstation under the covers. We do some cool and unique customization for Google Stadia. We paint it white, we put their logo on it, and away they go. We do some neat things for Uber Eats, Grubhub, Skip the Dishes. They're actually our tablets in those restaurants powering those types of applications. Now, if you just go back one slide, Mo. Perfect, thank you. What we find is when a software maker or even a hardware maker like GE Medical designs our computers or our hardware into their larger design, the biggest challenge for some of these customers is when we change the configuration, or there's an Intel CPU update or change, which we know happens every 10 to 12 months. These OEMs typically have to rewrite some of their code, re-image, redesign a certain aspect of their software or their hardware to work with the underlying computer powering their solution. So within the OEM portfolio, we are able to offer longer life cycles, 2, 3, 4, and 5-year life cycles on a group of our products. And we're actually even seeing some OEMs are asking us to hold the same configuration for 7 years, which we're looking into, but certainly have the ability to do this up to 5 years today. Some OEMs that create appliances, maybe like the Google Stadia, they may want or they may not want the Lenovo logo or branding on it. So we can do cool things like debranding, removing Lenovo logo, or rebranding, i.e. Google Stadia, Skip the Dishes, whatever it may be. And the other thing that we notice is that from a global deployment perspective or label, is that if you're an OEM and you own this intellectual property and you reside in Canada, your customers are likely, you may have customers in Canada, but you may expand to the US market, Asia, Middle East, Europe. So you are probably going to want to ship your appliance worldwide. So with the global deployment label, that allows us to get past customs and borders and shipping procedures where you and I would have to be chasing down NAFTA certificates of origin, a whack load of certificates. So this allows you to get your product into multiple markets, and virtually 180 markets that Lenovo participates and plays in today. And within the OEM portfolio, we also quite often bring in third-party vendors that are very strategic and make a lot of sense to Lenovo. So in this case, we've brought in a company called Instore Screens. Although Lenovo has our ThinkVision monitor portfolio, this is something very different, very suitable for the retail application, the high volume, high traffic, could be high touch or not, where they're industrial screens Custom cut LCD panels. You can go 3 foot, 4 foot, 5 foot. You can go vertical on a shelf. You can go 2 inch and put a 2 inch screen on each shelf end where you can have dynamic content, dynamic pricing, QR, IR codes that can be scanned by customers or updated as promotions are put out or sales are put out by a retail, for example. So if you are an in-store screens customer, you're actually purchasing a Lenovo SKU, as Lenovo is the sole distributor of in-store screens. Next slide, please. This is a little bit about what I spoke about earlier. I think we'll, quickly fast forward here, really about the branding and rebranding and the worldwide label. Here is a little bit more on in-store screens. I probably spoke what the talk track on the previous slide here, but we can do cool things like AI here. AI cameras can be and sometimes are integrated into these panels, and you can do very cool things like put a aisle end together, whether you're walking into a gas station or it could a convenience store, or it could be a pharmacy, where based on AI algorithms, you can have a shelf with half bottled water, half Coke. If it's a persona of a bottled water drinker that we believe is approaching the aisle end, we can push a dynamic content, a dynamic ad out that says 2 for 1 bottle of water. If we believe this is a persona of a Coke drinker, maybe it's a male versus a female, we may push a 2 for 1 bottled Coke dynamic content ad again. We do something with a company called Flonase, where we dynamically take content from the Weather Channel and we publish it down to the screen. And with Flonase, where we've had an implementation of that, we've noticed a 35 to 40% increase in sales because we're publishing relevant content to a potential buyer. Okay, so now I think this is my last slide on OEM, where we're finding a lot of opportunities, and this is actually true for IoT. So this is where IoT and OEM start to kind of meld together. Digital signage, security, human thermal detection and monitoring solutions are very popular. Healthcare, radiology, which we spoke about earlier. Remote patient monitoring is very interesting right now as well, in an area that's blowing up. Digital signage is kind of the everyday. I'll say, when you walk into a McDonald's, the ordering kiosk that's powered by a Lenovo IoT device. And then again, digital signage with some of the in-store screen products. We're probably not selling GE Medical CAT scan machines on a daily basis, but I'd say what we are probably marketing and selling and designing solutions around on a daily basis is digital signage. We do a bunch of cool things in the oil and gas industry to automate a number of features where you'd actually need engineers or multiple engineers on an oil rig to do, and we have better accuracy when you IoT like an oil and gas rig or a scenario. And then industrial automation, there's a big change in IoT that you heard Mo talk about earlier, or industrial IoT, where there's a huge initiative around Industry 4.0, which is really revolutionizing or next generation, bringing the next generation of IoT out, digitizing it, if you will. Next slide, please, Mo. And the underlying why Lenovo has a lot of success when we're implementing our underlying technologies or computers or screens in a number of these scenarios is three main reasons why a lot of customers rely and select Lenovo as their underlying compute provider partner. Number one, we have the highest performant platforms in the industry. If you take an equivalent HP, Dell, Cisco, you name it device that is a direct competitor, you will typically see and find that we have a higher performant platform. Because we design our motherboards, our planers, we do some very unique and interesting things down on the motherboard, which is around the chipset, around the memory, because we're all using the same Intel and AMD chipset. We're all using the same Samsung memory. So it's the design and engineering we do around those components that we bring into our system that allows us to deliver a higher performant platform. We do things on our platform, on our motherboard, that allow the platform to be more secure in and around the trusted platform management module chip. And sometimes we've got two of those devices that make it a more resilient, more secure platform. And then we also have the highest reliability when it comes to our computing platforms. This is actually measured by third-party companies. Third-party analysts that take a look at everyone's repair rates in the industry, everyone's replacement rates in the industry, and our calls into our help desk and service desk into our industry. And a lot of these technologies, because we have a lot of predictive failure technologies built into our system, so we can often predict failures before they happen. Now, as we truly shift gears over to IoT and smart edge, some of the work I do, which is consultative work with our customers and with the vast group of CDW account managers, is with the emergence of edge computing, we're seeing that more and more demand for processing is coming outside of the data center and to the edge. And this is what's really intrigues me with my data center background, and how I'm seeing more and more computing coming out to the edge. And now, being in Lenovo's IDG group, our intelligent device group, I can actually get out further to the edge than I could with my data center group of products, but still be as resilient and as highly available as we can in the data center group of products, which is really what's driving IoT, really that real-time analytics, that artificial intelligence, the autonomous driving data that's required at the edge, where you don't have time for the latency to go out to a data center and back and deliver that to a smarter cities autonomous driving scenario. So when we, before we start pitching any type of a product or solution with our customers, we really take a consultative approach. So we take a look at, from a software perspective, we get an understanding of what is the device management platform, the software that's required, and the middleware that's required that talks to the sensors. The security, Mo spoke a little bit about security, and then dashboard. How are we going to get? We're going to get all this data from all these wonderful sensors out in the field, in the marketplace, and then we're going to bring that data back. We're going to correlate that data, but how do we bring that data to a business person that can make a real-time business decision? Because if we can't correlate that into a business logic, then all of that data is virtually useless if we can't make rapid decisions with that data. And we may be bringing, an AI platform and an AI application in. Our from a retail perspective, is our digital campaign, digital marketing working? Are people actually reaching into the shelf and grabbing the product, or are they just walking by? If they're reaching in and grabbing and our sales are going up, like we see in the Flonase scenario, hey, we're doing something right. But if we've invested 3, 4, 5K in a retail shelf and end and it's not generating more sales, then maybe we got to rejig some of our content that we're putting out to the ad and truly make it an experience. And I think retail has kind of, changed forever with this, which is if we can't bring a unique experience to our retail shoppers and buyers, then why do they need to come to the store? They'll just place an order online. So, as we have these smart devices on the edge, whether they're taking in data from sensors or putting out data to a screen, we have to take a look at what kind of connectivity are we going to have to the back end data center. Is it going to be a cellular transport? How are we going to connect to the cloud into this data center? Is it going to be via SIM cards? Is it going to be LTE, 4G, 5G? How are we going to monitor that, and how are we going to charge back for that? Then we move on to understanding what is the right hardware platform, which I'm going to show you some of our industrial PCs in our hardware portfolio here. So depending on the IoT application and the design that you may need or have, you may need a low compute requirement. So you may take a look at Lenovo's IoT 520, which is really a need for a simple LTE gateway. Or you may have a very heavy, robust compute requirement in a smarter city scenario where you're taking a look at slip and fall detection, fight detection, if fights are breaking out, if someone is carrying something in their pocket like a gun that we may not want them to be carrying, if license plate detection, vehicle detection, having stats on how many Honda Civics came through a certain intersection in Kitchener, Ontario at a certain given time, where we need high accuracy. Maybe we need a more robust computer. Maybe we need some PoE ports to manage some higher end cameras that are taking in these analytics. And then we're going to take a look at what wireless technologies do we need to consider for your use case or your implementation? Is simple Wi-Fi or low energy Bluetooth gonna solve this problem? Are we gonna use some sort of LTE like I mentioned earlier? Is it gonna be maybe a battery powered application like a sensor that sits in a garbage disposal or garbage bin, which is powered by a battery? Is it going to be NB, a narrowband IoT frequency, where we have thousands of sensors talking to one Lenovo computer? Or is it going to be a single camera that's doing human thermal monitoring detection in an airport talking to a single Lenovo computer? Or is it going to be a payment solution where, we'll use something like RFID or NFC, near field communication, where you'll be paying for what you've purchased with your cell phone app that you've connected in your phone, because you may not have your wallet on you anymore. You may not need to have your wallet. And then there's satellite-based communications for IoT out in the airport, in the aircraft region, or air traffic control and oil and gas, where it's more of a remote location. Or is it simple wired Ethernet to a sensor? Then we got to take a look at what kind of sensors we need. Are we going to use legacy sensors, which are often referred to as PLCs in industrial automation, or are we going to use next generation sensors for meter reading, smart agriculture, smart city, smart disposal, smart whatever you can think of? And then in the end, while I certainly play a big role here, I also, behind me, I've got a wealth of resources. I've got cellular experts. I've got system engineers and software designers. I've got a wealth of system integrators that I can pull into this, because I'll be honest with you, I'll show you an ecosystem slide, but while I'll say Lenovo makes the best computers, screens, and tablets in the industry, we don't make sensors. So we have to select the right sensor manufacturers. We also don't make software, so we have to select the right middleware, device platform, and dashboard partners for this to all work best of breed for you. So long-winded slide there, but next slide. So this starts to display our Smart Edge portfolio. I would even say there's one or two devices I would add to this graphic in the future. The Lenovo Tiny, which is very popular, has been around for quite some time. Not necessarily designed for IoT, but we're seeing a use case for it when it comes to IoT. And also in our data center portfolio, we have something called the SC350, which is an edge server, very popular in the robo remote office branch office space as well. So as we dive a little deeper into each of these devices, next slide there, Mo. Thank you. So the Nano IoT was actually designed from our Nano product. And the Nano was the evolution from the Tiny. The Tiny is a 1 liter chassis. The Nano is 0.35 of a liter of a chassis, so less than half the size. So we've taken advantage of economies of scale, and we've done a couple of things with the Nano. We have taken out the fan, so we've made it fanless, so we can now put an IoT application in a area that cannot have any dust, cannot have any fans. Maybe it's a kitchen, or maybe it's in a very dusty area like a warehouse where we cannot take in any dust, or we don't want to take in any dust. So we can work in a lot of those stringent or very clean or very dirty environments, if you will. So we've taken the Nano IoT, we've redesigned a little bit. We've taken the fans out. We put a heat shield on the top. You see those fins, so it looks like a little bit of a, call it a radiator, call it a amplifier for like a car amplifier to dissipate heat. And then we've also designed something called an I/O box, or an I/O module, that snaps together and connects directly to the main board or the motherboard or the planar of this device, which gives us further I/O capabilities. And as I present this to a number of system integrators, IoT system integrators out in the marketplace today, which I say are partners of CDWs and Lenovo's as well, the market is loving this device because they're saying, holy smokes, Frank, I had to use 3 devices from 3 different vendors until you guys designed this. I had to use somebody's computer. I had to use a different vendor's PoE switch when my sensor's connected to a, they're PoE powered. And then I needed another gateway from a third manufacturer to be able to move that data or transport that data to a centralized location. So we can all do this now today with a single Lenovo device. Next slide, please. So a good example of a Nano IoT could be running a full retail experience, whether it's RFID tags and security. Maybe it's putting a Wi-Fi signal out into the store. The door sensors and an alarm system. Could be running the digital signage in the store, could be running the AI in the store, could be running the security cameras in the store, the interactive sign. So a number of different sensors, input or output devices can connect to a single, or maybe you might have more than one Nano IoT running in a store to truly give that next generation retail experience. Another use case is in industrial manufacturing, call it the shop floor. It could be cameras, maybe not security cameras, maybe not thermal monitoring cameras, maybe it's quality assurance cameras, maybe it's in a bottling factory where we're actually monitoring a product coming through an assembly line to make sure our label's not sideways or crooked or defaced in any way, to make sure our products are quality and design and consistent consistency and have uniform for that, tier one brand image. But you could be running sirens, multiple displays and sensors in a shop floor, electric power inverters. It could be pumps or valves that you could be controlling and talking to or taking measurements to. We connect into SCADA systems, which are very popular in industrial IoT. The second product is an EPC 300. This is a little bit more of a powerful device, a little bit more of a robust device. There's certainly a bit more weight to this guy. You see it certainly has a different form factor here as well. And you'll see a bunch of different green ports on there. So you'll see the traditional Ethernet and the COM ports and the USB and the monitor ports, which we're used to seeing. You'll see a little on the bottom image in the center, you see a little door for a SIM card. So if you want to go LTE 4G, very soon 5G, you'll be able to put a SIM card in there. You can run this on DC power. And then on the graphic on the left, you see the 3 ports, which is what you typically don't see on a traditional personal computer. Those are CAN bus ports, and CAN bus is a network that's also very popular in IoT or industrial IoT. Some of the use cases for CAN bus is, in planes, in locomotives, trains, in vehicles. In tractors and trailers, they're all of the microcomputers or microcontrollers or ECUs, and your plane, train, automobile, tractor will have multiple computers within, talking to a main computer, or multiple computers in a shop floor needing to talk to a main computer and connect into a main computer. So for those types of application, we can connect into and power a CAN bus network. Next slide. And again, so some of those industrial applications could be solar farms, wind farms, cell phone towers, aerial detection, you name it. A lot of those different types of use cases are really good fit here. Again, we've got a number of different frequency bands based on the 6 antennas that we can connect to based on the right frequency or wireless technology for your use case or scenario. And then the last device that I want to talk about here is the IoT 520. While this is still a computer, I would refer to this more so as a gateway. It's got an Atom processor, so it's very lightweight on the compute, but again, more of a gateway. So let's say I have to take data in from a data center or from a cloud, AWS or Azure or head office, whatever your cloud may mean to you, and then distribute it to maybe multiple screens or multiple devices. This is going to take data from the right place and then distribute data to the right place. Really like a gate coming in and out of, a complex or a gated community, if you will. Next slide, please. And this is this is what I call our ecosystem slide. So, in the center, you'll have, one of multiple Lenovo industrial PCs. Around that, you'll have different edge applications. We may connect into AWS or Azure. We may be running a Linux-based operating system or a Windows-based operating system, which we're certified to run both those Linux, Ubuntu, and Windows 10, Windows 10 IoT. We have hooks and certifications into AWS, Azure, and GCP. We work with a number of different middleware and device management platforms. We have integrators that own different dashboards that, again, can translate data into business logic. We work with a number of different sensors, whether it be by Siemens, Mitsubishi, Rockwell in the PLCs or modern day sensors. And then, we can link back into, where I've spent most of my time into the back-end data center, the Oracle, the SAP, the ERP applications, because we may take the data from a sensor, we may make a very quick and rapid decision, but we may also want to store that data for future reference in the data center. Next slide, Mo. And so some of the solutions that we're working on designing is, and this is, strike while the iron's hot. This seems to be one of the hottest topics today. So if you have a need or you're interested in something like this today, and there's a number of use cases that you see there on the left-hand side, whether it's, hospitals, whether it's airports, whether it's corporate buildings, offices, schools. I think people are attempting to do human temperature detection. Give you an example, at the airport, you're actually paying a person that's not there 24/7, that's not there when every flight comes in. You have airlines being criticized in the media by not being diligent in taking temperature sensing and measurements from people coming from international flights. Or you may have a nurse doing this in a hospital, actually exposing herself to a virus, where why wouldn't you have a computer, a black box, and a very smart camera do all this? You don't have to pay them. You certainly have to buy the solution, but you're not paying them salary, you're not paying them benefits, they're not going to get sick, and they're going to be there 24/7. So this is a very popular AI-based non-contact body measurement solution that we're working on. We're talking to customers today, and medical imaging, I think you heard me speak about this earlier. I won't spend much time on here, where we integrate our professional workstation into CAT scan machines, and then you've got radiologists working off of Lenovo professional workstations to be able to provide the most cleanest and crisp images. Remote patient monitoring, this is another big one, and we're striking while the iron's hot right now, where there's a huge demographic of individuals that are, patients of hospitals. They are likely outpatients. They likely visit their physician, their nurse, their doctor, their surgeon, maybe on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis. And maybe they, are often in a rural setting. And the hospitals they typically go and visit, it's not going to be the hospital down the street. It's going to probably be the hospital where, the top tier doctors are working. So it's going to be in that metropolitan city. So whether it's downtown Toronto or downtown New York or downtown, pick your downtown, whatever province you're in, you're likely going to be a stretch away from there. And that person's likely not going to drive themselves. They're going to take the time out of a busy family member's day. So now you're taking someone away from work. I've had to do this, and it's not a 1 hour trip. It's an hour trip into the city. By the time you park, by the time you wait, by the time you see your physician and doctor, and then by the time you get home, it's one full day out of work for that week, that month, or however regularly the outpatient is visiting. So with this new solution, there's organizations out there that have the intellectual property and have the software to be able to have different medical devices connect into a Lenovo tablet, whether it's a blood glucose level monitor, or whether it's heart pressure, whether it's unique medical weight scales, a whole bunch of different types of devices that either can connect into a tablet or can give a certain reading out to the outpatient. That outpatient drops that data into the Lenovo tablet, and even if they might be elderly, they might be, the 60 or 60 plus demographic, and they may not even have Wi-Fi at home. So we can put an LTE or SIM card in there. We do a lot of things with kiosks manufacturers in the retail space when it comes to, whether it's approaching real estate or wayfinding, map designing. We work with different organizations to be able to design those kiosks. I think I mentioned this earlier, so we provide tablets to Uber Eats, Grubhub, Skip the Dishes, as well. And this is the example I spoke about earlier, smart retail, where you've got, the dynamic content and AI in that little camera that you see in the center of the Lenovo Smart Display. Next slide, please. And then again, we've got some solutions where whether it's a video wall, whether it's security on the next page, security is very much IoT as well. A camera out in the field is actually a sensor, not that different, serves a different function, but not that different than a smart agricultural scenario where there's stakes in a farmer's field taking the moisture detection of a certain farmer's field. And then last but not least, we're doing quite a bit out in Alberta and Western Canada when it comes to oil and gas. We see IoT is a very big interest in Calgary and Alberta and Edmonton in that region. And we're seeing a lot of customers, even in offshore, like, in China and Asia. We're doing a bunch of things with automating a lot of the processes on offshore oil rigs. But I think that brings us to the end here. I've probably gone a little over my time, just enough time to kind of wrap up here. So Mo, you want to go ahead?
Thank you so much, Frank. And again, we appreciate your time and knowledge today. Just to make sure that we set up a call to action for everyone on the call, please reach out to your CDW account team, and we'll work diligently with our Lenovo team to make sure that we provide you with the most customized solution out there. Or you can reach out to our IoT task force, Frank and myself, to address any of your questions. We want to wish you a health and safe lockdown as we progress in this work from home new era. And we'd like to open it up for any questions if you have any. So feel free to drop them in the chat box if you don't mind. Alternatively, we have a list of questions that we will address as well. So if you have any questions, if you would like to ask any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat box or reach out to our host, Robert Tran. Meanwhile, I have a list of questions that I wanted to address. I think we've talked about a specific consortia of standardizations and policies that put together this IoT solution. And I touched base on that earlier in the presentation, and Frank did as well. So if you have any specific questions around any specific standardization across those IoT providers, we'll be more than happy to elaborate on. Another question that came through was, do you have a cybersecurity diagnostic software to measure the network? The answer is, within CDW, we have a dedicated team of solution architects focused on the security line of business. So to answer your question, yes, we have a bunch of cybersecurity solutions that we could recommend. I can name a few like SolarWinds and Splunk within the IoT space. But if you want a more specific security solution, then we would need to jump on a call with our solutions architect just to make sure that we're all on the same page. When it comes to diagnostic softwares, there are multi-different security solutions out there from the monitoring aspect. And if you're looking at something more specific to endpoint detection and response, then we would need to look at an MDR or an EDR type of solution, and we can focus on that as well. And then I think we had another question around the top. What is Lenovo's best enterprise laptop for 2020? Again, our approach is quite different. So what we typically do is we sit down with you and we design a roadmap for that particular hardware offering. If you're looking at a power user, a mobile power user, we've split our power mobile users into two categories: the workstations categories and the ThinkPad laptop category. Both are laptops, but one is a workstation called the P1, the second generation of P1, a power monster machine that we can showcase. And then we have the X series. So under the X series, we have the X1 Yoga, the X1 Carbon, and the X1 Extreme. Each and every one has a designated specific use case for it. And then we can look at the T14s and the T15s. This is the new generation of Lenovo ThinkPads for power mobile users. Again, those are pretty much the best enterprise laptops in the market. We are still considered #1 when it comes to technology enablement on laptops. And then we had another question in regards to training and support. At any time you have any specific technology or training around IoT, please reach out to us on a separate email, and we will design that training or support structure accordingly. Those are pretty much the questions that we had. I'm not sure if you have any other questions or further comments for us, but I wanted to thank you all for attending today's webinar. Stay safe, and we're looking forward to joining or having you join our future webinars, and we're looking forward to working with you. We appreciate and value your business with CDW and Lenovo, and thank you again for taking time and attending today's webinar.
Thanks everyone for your time. Yeah, I would love to continue this conversation with all of you. Let's get with your CDW account manager, and we can certainly schedule a time where we can talk about your IoT interests or needs. Thanks everyone.